I was 30,000 feet in the air, watching clouds drift below, when my phone buzzed with Jake's text, "Don't go home tonight." My stomach dropped. After 3 days of mind-numbing meetings in Seattle, all I wanted was to hug Sophia and the kids. Why? What's wrong? I typed back. Just trust me and stay away. My brother had never steered me wrong before. As the plane began its descent, my mind raced with terrible possibilities. Before I continue, where are you watching from? Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had that gut-wrenching feeling something was terribly wrong at home. The captain announced our final approach to Austin, but I barely heard him. My fingers trembled as I tried calling Jake for the 7th time, straight to voicemail. Every scenario running through my head was worse than the last. At 35, I had built what I thought was a perfect life, a successful career as a software security consultant, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and most importantly, a family I adored. Sophia and I had been married for 8 years. She was 32 now, but still turned heads everywhere she went. Before the kids, she'd had a promising modeling career. These days, she was content being a stay-at-home mom to Jackson and Emma, 7 and 5 years old, respectively. Jackson was my little tech genius already taking apart old computers in the garage. Emma was our artist covering our refrigerator with colorful drawings of our family. Jake was more than my younger brother. He was my best friend. 5 years ago, when I first started making real money, he helped me install an extensive security system in our home. Being a computer forensics expert, he insisted on setting up remote monitoring capabilities. "You never know when you might need an extra set of eyes," he'd said. I had laughed then. The 3-day trip to Seattle wasn't optional. Landing the Westfield account could double our company's revenue next year. Sophia had kissed me goodbye at security, Jackson had given me a high five, and Emma had pressed a crayon drawing into my hand. "So you don't forget what we look like, Daddy," she had said. The plane touched down with a jolt that matched the one in my gut. As we taxied to the gate, my mind constructed and discarded a dozen possibilities. House fire, break-in. Had Sophia been in an accident? But none of those explained why Jake would tell me to stay away from home. I shouldered past other passengers the moment the seatbelt sign turned off, apologizing half-heartedly. Outside, I bypassed the rideshare line and headed straight for the rental car counter. 20 minutes later, I was speeding toward Jake's suburban home, white-knuckling the steering wheel. His neighborhood was quiet, almost mockingly peaceful. I parked haphazardly in his driveway and pounded on his front door. When it swung open, I barely recognized my brother. His eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled. His usual meticulous appearance had given way to 3-day stubble and a wrinkled t-shirt. He hadn't slept. I knew instantly that whatever waited inside was worse than anything I had imagined. "Get in," Jake said, his voice hoarse. He locked the door behind me with trembling hands. "Sit down, Eddie, please." His living room was a disaster of empty coffee cups and takeout containers. Multiple laptops were open on his dining table screens, flashing with what looked like security footage. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded. Jake rubbed his face. "Remember how I promised to keep an eye on the security feeds while you were gone?" My mouth went dry. "The kids, Sophia. Are they hurt?" "They're physically fine," he said carefully. "But Eddie, I saw something concerning. 3 days ago, right after you left." He turned one of the laptops toward me. The timestamp showed Tuesday afternoon, barely 2 hours after my departure. A black sedan pulled into our driveway. A man in an expensive suit exited and approached our front door. Sophia greeted him with a hug that lingered too long. "Who is that?" I asked. "Keep watching." The footage jumped ahead. Another day, another man, then another. Each time Sophia welcomed them warmly. Each time they stayed for hours. Always when the children were at school. "She's having affairs," I said numbly. Jake's expression darkened. I thought so too at first. But then I noticed something else. He clicked to a new clip. This was yesterday afternoon. The same black sedan from the first clip. But this time, Jackson and Emma were home from school. The man brought gifts. He sat too close to them on the couch. Ruffled Jackson's hair. Let Emma sit on his lap. My stomach churned. "What am I looking at?" Jake's voice cracked. There were other visitors when the kids were home. Different men, all with the same pattern of behavior. He clicked through more footage. Men I'd never seen before interacting with my children. Casual touches that seemed innocuous at first glance, but grew more deliberate, more testing with each visit. "Your kids are being groomed for exploitation," Jake whispered. I lurched for the wastebasket in the corner and vomited until nothing remained but bitter bile. When I could breathe again, Jake handed me a glass of water. "There's more," he said grimly. "I remotely accessed your home computer. Found hidden folders. Pictures, Eddie. Not from the internet. Taken in your house." My legs gave out. I collapsed into a chair. "I've documented everything," Jake continued. "I contacted a detective I know from my forensics work. There are financial records, too. Payments to offshore accounts in Sophia's name." I stared at him. "What are you saying? I think Sophia is involved in an organized exploitation ring. These men aren't random affairs. This is coordinated. Calculated." The room seemed to tilt sideways. My wife of 8 years. The mother of my children. The woman who cried during sad commercials and volunteered at animal shelters. She couldn't be this monster Jake was describing. But the evidence played across the screens. Undeniable. Sickening. Why I managed. Jake shook his head. "I've been digging. Found communications between Sophia and her old modeling agent David Turner. He's been investigated before for similar operations. Nothing stuck. Rich clients, expensive lawyers, settlements with non-disclosure agreements." My children's faces flashed on screen again. Their innocent smiles. Their trust. "What do we do?" I asked, rage replacing shock. "I'm going home right now." And no, Jake gripped my shoulder. "If you confront her without proper documentation, without authorities involved, she could disappear with the kids. Or worse, claim you're abusive and get a restraining order. We need to be smart about this, Eddie." I knew he was right, but every fiber of my being screamed, to protect my children immediately. "I called Detective Marcus Williams," Jake said. "He's gathering resources, building a case, but we need more evidence before we move." For the next 6 hours, we methodically built our case. Jake showed me how to access digital footprints Sophia thought she'd erased. Text messages, emails, hidden apps on a secondary phone we discovered she kept. "Look at this." Jake pointed to a series of messages between Sophia and a contact labeled only DT, David Turner. "New client tomorrow. Big spender. Special requests. Kids ready by 4. My blood ran cold. "We need to look deeper into Turner," I said. Jake pulled up search results. David Turner, 58, former modeling agent turned private talent scout. His company, Elite Encounters, seemed legitimate at first glance. But digging deeper revealed a pattern of allegations settled out of court. Former models who disappeared from public life after working with him. A trail of suspicious financial transactions. "He's been doing this for decades," Jake whispered. "Recruiting vulnerable women, often former models past their prime earning years, setting them up as access points." And Sophia. Based on these communications, she's been working with him for at least 2 years. 2 years, half of Emma's life. Almost a third of Jackson's. Detective Williams arrived shortly after midnight. A broad-shouldered man with somber eyes who had seen too much of humanity's darkness. "We need to move carefully," he warned. "Cases like this evidence disappears quickly. People too." Together we developed a plan. Emergency custody orders were already being processed based on the initial evidence Jake provided. Recording devices would document any incriminating statements. Every move would be legally sound, ensuring no technicalities could allow Sophia or Turner to escape justice. I called Sophia, forcing my voice to remain casual, inquiring about my flight home tomorrow. "The kids miss you," she said warmly, "though they'll be busy tomorrow afternoon." I scheduled a special photo shoot for them. "Photo shoot?" I asked, heart hammering. "Just some modeling headshots. You know how cute they look on camera. Who knows, maybe they inherited my talent." Jake and Detective Williams exchanged glances. We had planned to gather more evidence before confronting her, but this photo shoot changed everything. We needed to act immediately. "Sounds great, honey," I lied. "Can't wait to see them. Love you." The words tasted like poison. Detective Williams made calls, accelerating our timeline. By dawn, we had recording devices, documentation, and a social services representative on standby. I hadn't slept, running on adrenaline and rage. "Remember," Jake said as we prepared to leave. "No matter what happens, the kids come first. Control your emotions." I nodded, though. I wasn't sure I could keep that promise. We arrived at my house at 10 in the morning, strategically timed when Sophia would be home, but before any visitors might arrive. Detective Williams parked down the street in an unmarked car, ready to intervene when needed. I used my key Jake close behind me. The familiar sound of cartoons drifted from the living room. For one surreal moment, everything seemed normal. Sophia's eyes widened when she saw me. Eddie, you're home early. Jackson and Emma raced toward me, throwing themselves into my arms. I hugged them fiercely, fighting back tears. Daddy, you're squishing us, Emma giggled. Sorry, princess. I managed setting them down gently. I missed you both so much. Sophia's smile didn't reach her eyes. Why didn't you call? I would have picked you up. Change of plans, I said evenly. Jake picked me up. Her gaze flicked to my brother, then back to me. A flicker of something. Calculation crossed her face. Kids, Jake said cheerfully. I brought my new game console. Want to check it out in the kitchen while your parents talk? They cheered and followed him, leaving Sophia and me alone in the living room. What's going on? She asked, arms crossed defensively. I think you know, I replied. The special photo shoot today. Who's it really with, Sophia? Her expression didn't change, but her posture stiffened. What are you talking about? It's just headshots for their school portfolios. Stop lying, I said quietly. I've seen the footage, the visitors, the men you've been bringing around our children. You're being paranoid, she scoffed. What footage have you been spying on me? The home security system, Sophia. Did you forget? Jake set it up, that he monitors it remotely. Color drained from her face. She quickly recovered her expression, morphing into concern. Eddie, you've been working too hard. These conspiracy theories. I cut her off, placing my phone on the coffee table. Video clips played silently. Men entering our home. The inappropriate interactions with our children. The secret meetings. Would you like to see the financial records too? I asked coldly. The offshore accounts. The communications with David Turner. Her mask slipped. Calculation replaced concern. You don't understand, she hissed. You're never home, always working. Do you know what it's like to be trapped here, day after day? My career was going somewhere before you and the kids. Turner offered me a way back. By exploiting our children. My voice shook with rage. They were never hurt, she snapped. Just photographs. Special clients with special interests. Do you know how much money those men pay? I struggled to breathe through my fury. And today's photo shoot, her silence confirmed my worst fears. The front door opened. Detective Williams entered, badge visible. Sophia Andrews. I'm Detective Marcus Williams. We'd like to ask you some questions about your association with David Turner and Elite Encounters. Panic flashed across her face. She lunged for her purse on the side table. Williams moved faster, blocking her path. Mrs. Andrews, please remain where you are. From the kitchen, Emma called out, Mommy. Why is there a policeman? Sophia's face hardened. This is ridiculous. You can't prove anything. At that moment, Jackson appeared in the doorway, clutching a juice box. Daddy, are you staying home now? Can we still play the special games with Mommy's friends later? The room went silent. Detective Williams knelt to Jackson's level. What kind of special games, buddy? My son's innocent description of what he'd been encouraged to do with the nice men who brought presents made me physically ill. Williams nodded to someone outside. A woman entered, the social services representative. Sophia lunged for the door. Williams caught her arm. Sophia Andrews, you're under arrest for child endangerment and suspected involvement in an exploitation ring. As he recited her rights, she screamed accusations at me. That I was an absent father. That I had driven her to this. That I would never see the children again. The kids began crying, confused and frightened. Jake gathered them close, shielding them from the sight of their mother being handcuffed. The social worker approached gently. We'll need to conduct interviews with the children. Standard procedure. They'll need to be placed temporarily with a family member. Jake stepped forward. I'm their uncle. I can take them. That night alone in a hotel room, I stared at the ceiling. My children were safe with Jake. Preliminary interviews suggested they hadn't yet been physically abused, though the psychological grooming had clearly begun. The photo shoot scheduled for that afternoon would have crossed that line. We had intervened just in time. My marriage was over. My family shattered. The home we had built together now felt contaminated. But beneath the grief and rage, a steely resolve formed. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The following weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and therapy appointments. District Attorney Laura Hernandez took personal interest in the case. We've been tracking Turner for years, she explained, during our first meeting. Your wife's cooperation could help us bring down his entire operation. Sophia, facing decades in prison, quickly turned on Turner. Her information revealed a sophisticated exploitation network spanning 5 states. Turner recruited former models facing financial difficulties or career decline, setting them up as fronts for his real business, providing special services to wealthy clients with predatory interests. I threw myself into helping the investigation, leveraging my tech expertise to trace digital trails. Turner thought he'd erased. Each discovery sickened me anew, but fueled my determination to see justice done. The custody battle was brutal. Sophia's attorney attempted to paint me as an absent workaholic father unfit for full custody. If Mr. Andrews had been more present, he argued, perhaps Mrs. Andrews wouldn't have been vulnerable to external influences. I refused every settlement offer. No amount of money could compensate for what nearly happened to my children. I wanted criminal charges, not confidential agreements. When David Turner was arrested attempting to board a private jet to a non-extradition country, I felt the first hint of vindication. News outlets caught wind of the story. Former model agent arrested in exploitation ring bust made headlines nationally. I declined all interview requests, determined to protect Jackson and Emma from further exposure. The preliminary hearing was the first time I faced Sophia directly since her arrest. She wouldn't meet my eyes as I testified about discovering her betrayal. Her shoulders hunched as I described Jackson's innocent revelations about the special games. The breakthrough came when another former model contacted the DA. She had worked with Turner years earlier, escaped his influence, and had been gathering evidence ever since. With her testimony, Turner's operation began collapsing like a house of cards. Client names, some shockingly prominent, emerged. Arrests multiplied. 4 months after that fateful flight home, I secured permanent custody of Jackson and Emma. Sophia accepted a plea deal, receiving a reduced sentence in exchange for comprehensive testimony against Turner and his clients. Turner himself was sentenced to 30 years without possibility of parole. We moved across town into a smaller house with a yard for the kids to play. I restructured my work schedule, transitioning to consulting roles that allowed me to work primarily from home. Nothing, no client, no contract, no career advancement, would ever again take priority over being present for my children. Jake remained our rock. Sunday dinners at his place became sacred ritual. The kids adored their uncle, and I would never forget the night he called to warn me. Without him, the unthinkable might have happened. Dr. Sarah Jenkins, a specialist in childhood trauma, guided us through the healing process. Jackson's nightmares gradually decreased in frequency. Emma, who had stopped drawing after the arrest, slowly returned to her art therapy sessions, her pictures evolving from dark scribbles to colorful family scenes again. 6 months after the arrest, we visited an amusement park. Watching Jackson and Emma laugh uncontrollably on the teacup ride, I caught a glimpse of our future. The shadows hadn't disappeared completely, but light was breaking through. I joined a support group for parents of exploitation survivors. Their stories both devastated and strengthened me. Together, we navigated the delicate balance between establishing safety protocols and avoiding instilling fear in our children. The hardest conversations were the ones about what had happened. Age-appropriate explanations about bad people who had tried to hurt them, and reassurances that those people were gone forever. About a mommy who had made terrible choices and couldn't live with us anymore. My own therapy journey forced me to confront painful truths. Had I truly been so absorbed in my career that I missed signs of Sophia's dissatisfaction, the therapist helped me understand that while I might share responsibility for an unhappy marriage, Sophia's choices were hers alone. No marital problem justified endangering children. 1 year after discovery, I stood in our new backyard watching Jackson teach Emma how to use the coding program Jake had bought him. Their resilience amazed me daily. Children, I was learning, could heal from almost anything when surrounded by consistent love and safety. I established a foundation with Jake, creating educational resources to help parents recognize signs of exploitation and grooming. My story, anonymized to protect the children, became part of our prevention materials. If even one family was spared our nightmare, it would be worth it. 2 years later, life had found a new rhythm. The foundation partnered with law enforcement nationwide. My testimony helped pass enhanced legislation for child protection. Jackson and Emma thrived in their new school, their traumatic memories fading with time and care. I even started dating again, cautiously, carefully. Amy, a pediatric nurse who understood trauma brought gentleness back into our lives. The children adored her patience and playfulness. We moved slowly, prioritizing their comfort above all. Jake announced his engagement, prompting Emma to immediately begin planning her flower girl dress. Watching my brother find happiness after everything he had sacrificed for us filled me with profound gratitude. The letter I wrote for Jackson and Emma to read when they were adults detailed both the darkness we had faced and the light we had found afterward. It explained how their resilience had inspired mine, how the worst moment of my life had ultimately revealed what truly mattered: their safety, their trust, and the unbreakable bond between us. On quiet evenings sitting on our porch, while the kids played in the yard, I sometimes thought about that text message at 30,000 feet. Don't go home tonight. Simple words that had changed everything. A warning from someone who loved us enough to watch over us, even from a distance. Have you ever had someone in your life who saved you from disaster? Someone who was paying attention when you were blind to danger? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because sometimes the most important messages come from the people who love us enough to tell us hard truths. Thank you for listening, and remember to always trust your instincts. They might just save someone you love.